Late at night, a bounty hunter named Hub arrives at a roadside motel, checking a wanted flyer for a man named Jeb. After preparing his gear, he pounds on the door, identifying himself as a bail agent and ordering Jeb to surrender with his hands raised. Although the lights and TV in the room are off, Jeb simply tells him to go away. Determined not to leave empty-handed, Hub removes the cover from a ventilation duct and lowers a wasp nest inside using a hook. Jeb rushes out trying to escape the swarm, and Hub manages to snag him, only to discover it's not Jeb, but a man named Billy Ole who lured Hub there with a false lead. Suddenly, Billy's brother Clyde appears and shoots Hub from behind, knocking him down before slitting his throat. By morning, Hub awakens in a hidden space between the motel walls, horrified to realize he's still alive despite the deep cut in his neck. Unable to call for help, he smashes through the wall and collapses into Billy's room. Looking in a mirror, he's shocked to see the gaping wound in his throat, evidence he should be dead. He also notices a strange bruise shaped like a claw on his arm. Just then, he hears movement outside and realizes his weapons are gone. A man named Tater enters and screams at the sight of Hub, who knocks him out and steals his firearm. When Hub lights a cigarette, smoke escapes through the hole in his neck. Tater confesses he was hired by the Ole brothers to torch the motel for insurance, and they made off with Hub's truck. He swears Hub was dead the previous night. Furious, Hub cuffs Tater, locks him in his trunk, and tells him to deliver a message. He's coming for the Earls. Hub then wraps tape around his throat as a makeshift bandage. While waiting at a train crossing, he checks the wound and finds it's beginning to heal. Once home, he rushes to the bathroom and confirms his throat is now completely restored. After cleaning up, he checks on his mother, Kitty, and is annoyed to find her chatting with Pastor Ron, who had previously banned her from his congregation. Ron agrees to let her back if Hub stops hauling in fugitives during Sunday services. Hub brushes him off with sarcasm and Ron leaves. Hub asks Kitty why Billy's out of jail, and she says someone named Lucky posted bail. Realizing Lucky is trying to have him killed, Hub alters some documents to make it look like Lucky has an outstanding warrant. His voicemail is flooded with messages from a company called Pot Gold, so he unplugs his phone, only to have all his burner phones start ringing with the same calls. He heads to a nearby bar. There, he spots Lucky and follows him backstage, but is interrupted by his son Cade and ex-partner Marianne, who is now involved with Lucky. Hub claims he has a warrant for Lucky, but Marianne dismisses it. Hub tries to warn her that Lucky sent hitmen after him, but she doesn't believe him, especially since there's no evidence of his injury. Cade then interrupts again, saying someone named Gold Pot keeps calling with urgent messages, which Hub ignores. Before leaving, Marianne asks Hub to sign a form allowing her to take Cade out of state for an audition. Hub says he'll consider it, but by then, Lucky has disappeared. Later, Hub notices flickering lights at the church and is disturbed to see Pastor Ron with eyes like dark voids. As Hub flees, Ron gives chase. Eventually, Hub reaches a secluded cabin and finds Lucky's car out front. Tiny, the third Ole brother, is nearby. Hub checks on Tater, who confirms Lucky is behind everything. Gun drawn, Hub confronts Tiny, who's stunned to see Hub alive. He admits Lucky isn't there, the car was bait, and the others are inside. Hub brings Tiny into the cabin, kicks him through the door, and shoots off Billy's fingers. He forces the brothers to text Lucky asking for more money as bait for a trap. While waiting, the cabin's lights start flickering. Clyde peers outside and sees Pastor Ron approaching. Hub sends Clyde out to deal with him. Moments later, Clyde screams. Peeking through a crack, Hub sees Clyde's body being hurled through the air, then unnaturally contorted. Billy levitates before being slammed into the door, his skull crushed. When Hub looks again, a monstrous Ron stares back. Hub unloads his gun through the door, but the handle keeps rattling. Hub flees out the back and through the woods, eventually reaching a road where he flags a cab back to town. At home, he finds Kitty chatting with a woman named Midge from Pot Gold. He tries to dismiss her until she says he died and was brought back, and she's his parole officer. His resurrection is temporary, and now his job is to hunt demons instead of fugitives. A flashback reveals that Pastor Ron had been acting normally the night before, even using holy water to fix his hair. But when the power cut out and he reset the fuse box, something flickered in the mirror and the altar candles sparked ominously. Suddenly, a wanted poster bearing his image catches fire and a monstrous face materializes in the reflection of a mirror. Pastor Ron grabs a crucifix and begins reciting scripture, flinging consecrated water at all the mirrors around him, causing them to shatter. As the lights flicker erratically, the holy water begins to bubble. When Ron reaches for more, a surge of electricity hits him, scorching his eyes. He collapses, half of his face burned, but just moments later, he revives, and his injuries vanish almost instantly. Back in the present, Hub dismisses Midge's claims, assuming she's running a scam. She pulls out a recorder and asks him to confirm his refusal, but he hesitates to say anything definite. Kitty asks why her son would end up in the underworld, but Midge says that's his story to tell. She explains that some damned entities have slipped out of hell, and it's now Hub's responsibility to return them. Because Hub has already been there, he can now perceive them in the real world. The demons kill their hosts before taking over, meaning Hub won't be harming any innocents. But if he fails in his new task, he'll be sent back to hell himself. Elsewhere, Lucky arrives at the secluded cabin and discovers the corpses of the 3 old brothers. Not far away, he finds a vehicle and opens its trunk, finding Tater tied up inside. Tater tells him Hub is the one behind all of it. Meanwhile, at Hub's house, a fax comes in from Pot o' Gold listing his first demonic target along with coordinates. A quick search reveals that the location is the local church, prompting Hub to fill his mother in about what happened to Ron. Kitty insists on joining him, and the two head to the church. They find it dark, in ruins, and bearing signs of last night's chaos, including Ron's disfigured face on the floor. Not wanting his family exposed to more danger, Hub later visits the bar and hands Mary Ann the signed papers, allowing her to take Kate out of state. Back home, Kitty asks why Hub was sent to hell. Hub admits he doesn't know. He suspects there's been some mistake. Kitty blames herself, thinking she failed as a mother, and leaves the room in tears. Hub follows to console her. Recalling the flickering lights, Hub contacts a friend at the electric company and learns of recent power surges centered around the recycling center. Preparing for trouble, he suits up again, and Kitty once more insists on tagging along. Upon arrival, Hub asks her to stay in the car, but she reminds him of her own past as a bounty hunter and insists on helping. They form a plan and head inside. Inside, Hub spots a blood trail leading to a triangle symbol. Looking up, he sees a corpse strung upside down like a crucifix. Suddenly, his flashlight dies, and he's lifted into the air. A demonic version of Ron emerges from the shadows, slamming Hub into a wall while lights flicker and a nearby radio starts playing on its own. Hub retreats to hide, but when Ron follows, he steps into a trap set by Kitty. Hub then fires a tranquilizer dart, and Kitty attempts an exorcism, but neither works. When Hub switches to live rounds, they're still ineffective. Ron responds by hurling debris at him. As Ron advances, Kitty blasts him with her shotgun, knocking him back. Sensing the demon is regenerating, Hub tips over a heavy machine onto Ron's head. The lights stabilize as Ron's body ignites. The fire spreads rapidly, forcing Hub and Kitty to flee, unaware that Tater has been secretly watching them. The next day, a girl named Deirdre records a tearful video, accusing a friend of harassment. Once the stream ends, it's clear the story was fabricated to retaliate against the girl now dating Deirdre's ex. Moments later, strange noises lure Deirdre into the bathroom where the shower is running on its own. She turns it off, but the faucets start flowing again. A demonic figure appears in the mirror. Suddenly, Deirdre is lifted off the ground and violently slammed into the bathtub, where she drowns. Back at home, Hub receives a message from Pot o' Gold congratulating him on completing his first mission. Looking through Lucky's file from Boston, he asks Kitty to monitor the fax machine. Then, he heads to Lucky's home, where Lucky is preparing to take Kate to school. Hub offers to do it instead. Lucky is annoyed, but Mary Ann supports the idea. During the drive, Hub lets Kate take the wheel, despite not having a license, and uses the opportunity to show him Lucky's mob connections. Kate struggles to focus and accuses Hub of faking interest in spending time with him just to attack Lucky's character. Just then, Kitty calls to report a new target and warns that this demon should be kept away from water. Hub changes course and directs Cade to the provided coordinates. They arrive at Deirdre's house, and Hub instructs Cade to stay in the car and keep watch. Approaching the back entrance, Hub sees water leaking from an upstairs window. He picks the lock and enters, finding the bathroom flooding and blood smears on the walls. Piecing things together, Hub concludes that the teenage girl is now possessed. Cade confirms that Deirdre is a well-known student at his school. Meanwhile, Tater shows Lucky disturbing photos of the bodies found at the recycling center. Lucky blames black magic or witchcraft and lashes out in frustration. While Hub and Cade drive around town, Hub starts noticing erratic water activity all over. Leaky pipes, overflowing drains, gushing fountains. Marking the locations on a map, he realizes the demon is heading for the county pool. They rush to the location, and Hub sneaks in through a locker room window. Inside, the pool area is already submerged and strange noises echo through the space. In the water, he finds the janitor's corpse with 3 floating rings forming a triangle. Suddenly, Deirdre, now fully possessed, grabs Hub and pulls him under. She tries to drown him, but he manages to stab her face. Despite his efforts, she continues pushing him down until he begins to black out. A vision of the dead janitor inspires him to fight, and this time, he drives the blade into her eye, killing the demon. Her body burns beneath the water surface. As Hub heads for the exit, he spots Sheriff Ruby arriving. He ducks behind the front desk while Ruby searches for an entrance. Kate calls and asks what to do. Hub instructs him to leave immediately. Then, using the desk phone, he dials 911 and anonymously reports a drunk teen driving around in a truck, his own, to provide cover. Ruby gets word of the situation and heads off in pursuit of Cade. With the coast clear, Hub retrieves the surveillance system's hard drive to erase any trace of his presence. Meanwhile, Lucky arrives at Kitty's house, only to be greeted at gunpoint. He insists he's only trying to keep his loved one safe and leaves a folder behind before departing. When Kitty opens it, she finds photographs showing what took place at the recycling center. Later, Marian manages to get Cade out of police custody. When Hub shows up, she confronts him and they get into a heated argument. Cade reveals he's planning to launch his music career early with Marianne's help, which angers Hub since they'd agreed to wait until Cade turned 18. Marianne and Cade accuse Hub of being bitter over his own failed music career and walk out, disillusioned with him. Back at his house, Hub reflects on the events of the past month. Deep in the woods behind his home, he had buried the body of a woman named Cheryl. Elsewhere, Deputy Briggs extorts money from a food truck vendor, threatening false charges if he speaks up. As Briggs sits in his car, he glimpses a demonic figure in the rearview mirror, gone when he turns around. Out of nowhere, something forces dirt into his mouth, choking him. His body convulses, and he dies by his own hand, only to rise again, possessed. At home, Hub watches an old video of him and Marianne performing. When he looks outside, he imagines Cheryl's ghost staring back. Kitty, meanwhile, files off a gun's serial number and hides some contraband crystals in her safe. A fax arrives identifying a new target, an Earth demon. When Hub offers to take Kitty along, he discovers she's already gone. He follows the coordinates to an empty police cruiser. Asking around, Hub learns that Briggs abandoned the car about an hour earlier. Meanwhile, Cade is having second thoughts about his big music debut. Marian blames Hub for Cade's hesitation. Lucky tries to warn her that Hub isn't trustworthy, but she bristles at the criticism. He attempts to show her the folder Kitty found, but they're interrupted when a staff member alerts them that Lucky's car is on fire. Outside, chaos ensues as everyone scrambles to extinguish the flames. Kitty's doing. While the others are distracted, she sneaks into Lucky's office and plants the gun and crystals. As she does, Hub calls with an update about blood found in Briggs' cruiser. He's already alerted authorities, who have traced Briggs' radio signal. He's going after him. After the call, Kitty crosses paths with Marianne, who realizes the fire was staged, a trick used by her family for years. Kitty tells her to talk to Hub directly and leaves. Marianne uses a phone tracker to follow Hub to a hardware store, where she angrily confronts him about Kitty's stunt. They're interrupted by an eerie sound. Hub urges her to leave, but as she exits, Marianne follows a trail of dirt to a hidden mound and finds a corpse. Before she can scream, Hub pulls her back, spotting a nearby security camera. They try to leave, but encounter Briggs dumping dirt. Mistaking him for a helpful officer, Marianne reveals their location. Briggs turns, revealing his demonic nature, though she sees only a normal face. Hub fires his weapon, and Briggs begins crawling up the walls. The two fight, and Marianne stabs Briggs with a pickaxe. When the demon turns toward her, Hub shoots in the head. As the body spontaneously ignites, they flee the building. Back home, Marianne cleans up while Hub notes that all the dirt triangles have had victims at their center. He contacts Midge to share the discovery. Midge, upset that Hub somehow got her personal number, tells him not to call again since it's her family line. Hub later explains the situation to Marianne, who doesn't understand how he ended up in hell. She also realizes that Lucky had killed him, laughing bitterly at his broken promise to change. Hub urges her to leave town with Cade for safety and hopes to make amends afterward. Marianne, moved, hugs him just before Kitty calls. They meet at the bar and witness Lucky being arrested, thanks to the evidence Kitty planted. Marianne confronts him, but Lucky denies hiring the Earls. Using Kitty's intel, Marianne warns him, if he tries to use the photos against them, the police will think he was part of the crime, especially since the murder weapon Kitty planted links directly to him. Later, Hub and Marianne tell Cade they won't be bailing Lucky out. Hub gives Cade his blessing to pursue music, and they embrace. After saying farewell, Hub rejoins Kitty. Ruby informs them that Briggs died in a store fire. When Ruby asks why Hub was searching for Briggs, he claims he only found the abandoned car. Once Ruby leaves, Kitty frets over whether the store cameras captured anything, but Hub reassures her that the fire likely destroyed the footage. At a nearby lake, a couple tries to celebrate their engagement, but a man in a monster truck interrupts their moment, claiming the spot for fishing. When asked to leave, the man attacks the fiancée. As the two men fight, a pair of demons inflates the truck's tires until they explode. The woman is knocked down and, upon regaining her bearings, discovers the truck has crushed the men. As she rushes to check on them, Their bodies, split in half, suddenly open their eyes and stare at her. At the bar, Lucky returns from jail and immediately starts drinking, tossing away his sobriety chip. He loudly accuses Hub of trying and failing to frame him, then attempts to buy the bartender's truck. Elsewhere, Hub discovers a book that belonged to Midge's mother, filled with information on supernatural entities. He notices a diagram depicting a ritual, rips the page out, and pins it to his investigation board. Using the diagram along with the known triangle locations, he realizes the demons are forming a pentagram. So far, they've completed the spirit, earth, and water points, leaving only fire and air. A flashback takes us back 9 years, when Midge was a thriving pastry chef. During a party at her home, her son Benji suddenly stopped breathing. At the hospital, doctors revealed he had an aggressive form of cancer, but her insurance wouldn't cover the cost of treatment. Desperate, Midge began selling off her belongings, holding on only to the bare essentials. Still short on funds, she even considered selling a kidney. While researching online, she came across an ad for a company called Pot O' Gold, which offered comprehensive medical coverage. She clicked it, and the animated leprechaun mascot caused the page to glitch. An application form auto-filled itself with her personal details, including a clause promising a cure for Benji. As the leprechaun chanted, "Sell your soul," Midge submitted the application. The next day, a man named Cosmo showed up with a fax machine. He told her that if anyone asked how Benji recovered, she should never mention Pot O' Gold. Her new role was to bring in more recruits, and for each new soul she signed, she earned credit, though 1/3 would go to Cosmo as her overseer. It was a pyramid-like scheme. Though hesitant, Cosmo reminded her that Benji was running out of time, so Midge signed the contract. She was also required to stamp it with her blood. The ink pad pricked her thumb to draw it. Afterward, she began seeing terrifying visions in mirrors, and Cosmo revealed his true, aged form. She also developed a bruise shaped like a claw on her arm, which Cosmo had as well. In the present, Midge is joyfully baking with a now healthy Benji. Her doorbell camera alerts her to Hub's arrival, so she grabs a firearm before answering. Hub confronts her with the truth he's uncovered, and Midge admits that when she once tried to leave Pot O' Gold, Benji's illness returned. Hub shows concern but still attempts to explain his findings about the demon pattern. Midge, however, refuses to discuss anything that doesn't concern her son's safety. She threatens him, forcing Hub to drop his folder and leave. While driving, Hub contacts Kitty and learns that the air elemental has surfaced. He also notices Marianne is still tracking his phone and smiles, thinking she must miss him. He arrives at a lakeside area where he discovers abandoned vehicles and bloodstains. With no one nearby, he decides to travel east, toward the pentagram's air point. That evening, while staking out a bridge, Hub sees 2 possessed men carrying a woman. He fires at them, hitting one, but the other uses the woman as a shield. Hub continues shooting as the first man climbs the bridge. Suddenly, a truck crashes into Hub's vehicle, flipping it. When he regains consciousness, he tries to reach for his gun, but Lucky steps on his hand and kicks him unconscious. The following morning, Kitty finds her son's wrecked car, but he's nowhere in sight. Listening to the police scanner, she hears about a nearby murder and heads there, but it's just the woman found dead at the lake. Ruby sees her and is surprised Kitty's so far from town early in the morning and wearing tactical gear. Meanwhile, Hub wakes up in his own holding cell, stripped to his underwear and cuffed to a bench. His phone rings, and the answering machine records a message from Midge, who says she reviewed the evidence and now believes his theory. Lucky is also there, taunting Hub and questioning how someone like him ever ended up with Marianne. He stomps on Hub's hand and smashes his fingers with a hammer, all while recording the scene to send to Marianne. He confesses that he hired the Earls to take Hub out, but also claims Hub tried to kill him first. When Hub calls it a lie, Lucky demands to know what really happened to Cheryl. Hub refuses to speak, prompting Lucky to continue breaking his fingers. A flashback reveals what occurred. A month ago, Hub visited Lucky at the bar, urging him to leave Marianne because no one ever truly escapes their past. Lucky claimed to be clean, but Hub went off the rails, threatening to label him a snitch and get him killed. He even punched Lucky, causing the bar's bouncer, Tiny, to throw him out. Outside, Tiny kicked Hub a few more times before telling him to run. That night, Hub waited in his car, drunk and armed. He entered the bar and, seeing a shadowy figure wearing Lucky's hat, opened fire, only to discover he'd shot Cheryl by mistake. He tried to stop the bleeding, but she died in his arms. From an upstairs office, Lucky saw Hub's car speed away. Rushing to the scene, he found the hat, a recently cleaned floor, and a pile of plastic wrap. In the present, Lucky demands Hub confess. Instead, Hub gives him the finger, so Lucky smashes his hand again with the hammer. Meanwhile, Marianne and Kate finish recording their first song together. At that moment, Marianne receives a phone call from Ruby, who casually asks if she had visited the hardware store. Marianne claims she went there alone to buy a replacement fuse. Ruby ends the call, but in reality, she has surveillance footage showing both Marianne and Hub at the store before the fire started. Back at Hub's place, he hears the front door and assumes it's Kitty, prompting Lucky to go out to intercept her. Instead, Lucky finds a demon-possessed fisherman at the entrance, while another possessed figure crawls across the ceiling. The creatures ambush him. Hub, using the injury to his hand to slip free from the cuffs, grabs the hammer and smashes the remaining restraint. As the demons beat Lucky mercilessly, he pulls his gun and opens fire, but the shots are useless. He tries hiding under a car, but the fisherman drags him out and throws him into a cabinet. Hub witnesses this and rushes to arm himself, only to be ambushed by the ceiling dweller. Hub manages to shoot it down, and the noise draws the fisherman's attention, causing him to drop Lucky. Hub then fires a headshot at the first demon, finally killing it. Its body bursts into flames. The fisherman attacks next, but Hub's final bullet only wounds him. As Lucky drives off in his truck, Hub grabs a chainsaw and plunges it into the demon's skull, finishing the job. To stop the flames from spreading, he puts them out with a fire extinguisher. Later that evening, Kitty returns and tends to Hub's injured hand to avoid drawing attention at a hospital. He's about to come clean about Cheryl when Marianne and Cade show up. Cade is now aware of the demonic threat. Marianne told him because she suspects Ruby is hiding something and they need a strategy. Hub reveals the demon corpses, hoping to scare Cade away, but Cade insists on helping. Kitty agrees they could use extra hands. The group decides to tackle the crisis as a team. The following day, at a nearby park, a young boy playing on the grass vanishes when a trail of ash mysteriously appears. Meanwhile, Marianne continues helping Hub clean up the aftermath. Kitty and Cade have taken the demon bodies to the funeral home to be cremated. Hub knows the staff won't report anything, as Kitty has leverage over their shady dealings. Suddenly, a phone starts ringing. They realize Lucky left his behind. Marianne knows the code and unlocks it, but Hub warns that Lucky had recorded footage of his torture. Disturbed, she drops it, and once she's gone, Hub destroys the phone with a hammer. When Kitty and Cade return, the fax machine spits out intel about the next demon. This one has power over fire, just as Hub predicted. Studying his ongoing map of the ritual, Hub concludes the final sacrifice will take place at a newly constructed residential area. The family wonders what will happen to Hub after the last demon is defeated, prompting Kitty to lead them in prayer. Just then, Midge arrives, sharing her findings. If the demons succeed, they will summon one of the shackled seven, fallen angels who joined Lucifer's revolt. The family begins preparing an evacuation of the neighborhood. Meanwhile, Lucky visits a church, attempting to talk to God about what he's experienced. Tater mentions that black magic is real, and Lucky interprets his rage as divine preparation for his battle with Hub. When Tater's phone rings with a call from the police, Lucky sees it as the sign he asked for. Disguised as fire inspectors, Midge and Hub's family go door to door in the development, claiming there's a gas leak and urging residents to leave. Midge uses a mirror to reveal any signs of demonic possession. One homeowner refuses to go without his doll collection and fires a gun at them, forcing the team to retreat. Despite their reluctance to help him, they know they must save him to prevent the demon from using him in the ritual. Hub sneaks into the house and waits for the man to approach the dolls before tasering and dragging him out. Midge then enters to sweep the home and finds the missing boy from the park. He just stares at her silently. Using her mirror, she confirms he's the demon. She aims her weapon but hesitates to shoot a child. Suddenly, fiery lines appear on the floor and the house collapses into a sinkhole. Midge dies in the process, and the ritual is now complete. That night, Hub expresses gratitude to his family, and they all share an emotional moment. While they wait for what's to come, they play music together. Later, Marianne kisses Hub, and things turn intimate. At the police station, Lucky makes Ruby promise not to harm Marianne, giving her incriminating photos of the recycling plant in return. Shortly after, Hub receives another fax. His next target is a demon named Lilith. The coordinates point to his backyard. He rushes outside to find Cheryl's grave disturbed and empty. A flashback reveals that Cheryl, now possessed, rose from the grave in the middle of the night. Moving with supernatural speed, she peered through a window and saw Hub with Marianne. Hearing a truck nearby, she unfurled her wings and flew off, landing on the vehicle. In the present, Hub wakes up after sleeping in the woods. When Marianne finds him, he's forced to tell her the truth about Cheryl. The family later confronts him in anger, but he insists that stopping the demon is their top priority. Marianne agrees, admitting the demon is the only reason she hasn't reported him to the authorities. She then leaves with Cade. Shortly after, Hub is out chopping firewood when he notices the wind stirring unusually through the trees. It gives him the uneasy sense that someone or something is approaching. Just then, Cosmo pulls up in his van and drops off Midge, who appears unharmed. She tells Hub she's been sent back to assist in completing their mission, one final task that could save both their families as a global catastrophe looms. Midge briefs him on Lilith, a former celestial being who was once favored by God. However, envy among the other angels led them to manipulate her into siding with the rebellion, resulting in her banishment. Lilith is renowned for her enchanting voice and has a strong attraction to music. She also possesses powerful mental manipulation abilities. The devil has long been obsessed with her since she became his captive. The last time she broke free, she unleashed her fury on every man she encountered. She was ultimately subdued near an abbey where monks had been chanting, a detail Midge supports with a diagram. Meanwhile, Cheryl storms into a diner and cranks up the jukebox. Locals, recognizing her from missing person posters, rush to call the authorities. When one man touches her shoulder, Cheryl takes over the minds of all the men inside, compelling them to end their own lives, while commanding the women to kneel. Elsewhere, law enforcement surrounds Kitty's home. She gives herself up while officers search for Hub but come up empty-handed. There's no blood or signs of struggle, causing skepticism about Lucky's claims. In defense, Lucky points to Hub's demon tracking board as evidence. The police arrest Marianne shortly after. Lucky assures Kate it was for his protection, but Kate refuses to testify, meaning Lucky's story won't hold in court. Kitty and Marianne try to convince Ruby that Hub is actually fighting to save the world, but their claims fall on deaf ears. Ruby threatens to go after Cade next, pushing Marianne to leave a voicemail for Hub, asking for a meeting. Deep in the forest, Hub begins setting up an audio system, believing he can draw Lilith out by playing loud music. After spotting a pentagram in the Abbey diagram, he decides to recreate it as a trap. He and Midge craft rune symbols from twigs, placing them in tin cans to form the 5 points. They connect everything with wires, concealing it with soil and leaves. Worried about Lilith's psychic control, Hub is relieved when Midge assures him her powers won't work on those who've experienced the underworld. As soon as the music begins, Cheryl abruptly leaves the diner. The spell over the women lifts, and they scream upon seeing the carnage. Cheryl flies into the woods and touches down just outside the hidden trap. Hub steps out with his weapon, but Cheryl quickly gets the upper hand, slamming him into his car and a nearby tree. As she lifts him above the trap's center, Midge triggers the mechanism. The lines ignite, forming barriers of energy. Cheryl panics, drops Hub onto the vehicle, and attempts to escape, but the field traps her. She crashes into the car again and, switching tactics, pleads with Hub to spare her life, pretending to be an innocent Cheryl. But Hub can tell she's faking. Lilith's voice emerges, offering a deal. Let her go, and she'll spare Cheryl and ensure Hub doesn't go to hell. As she speaks, Lilith miraculously heals all his injuries. Conflicted, Hub reaches for his weapon, but the mention of his family sways him. He accepts the offer. Lilith transforms into a crow, and Hub's wounds vanish. He breaks the containment seal, allowing the crow to escape. Midge lashes out at him for betraying their plan, but Hub insists he'll fix things. Cheryl reverts to normal and is confused by what just occurred. That night, Hub takes Cheryl to a bar where she reunites with old friends. He gives Lucky the finger on the way in and starts to tell his family he's finally free of Hell's grip, but Ruby interrupts and places him under arrest. A heartbroken Marianne retreats to her dressing room to cry, where she notices the crow perched silently on her hanger. When Lucky enters to check on her, he finds the room in shambles. Marianne, standing in front of the mirror, is singing softly. As he approaches, it becomes clear she's no longer herself. Possessed by Lilith, she forcefully throws him back. Using her supernatural powers, she compels Lucky to take his own life. Back in the bar, Hub watches the crow fly away. Moments later, Marianne steps on stage and begins singing, casting a spell over the audience. The women fold their arms while the men prepare to harm themselves, everyone except Hub. Lilith, now fully in control, appears before him and warns that if he wants Marianne to stay alive, he must serve her from now on. Thanks for sticking around until the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Catch you in the next recap.